Good grief.
Good grief.
Music was phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely,
man.
absolutely. So I would like to start with the last song that you actually played.
Okay.
Called "Let Me Lay on Your Couch."
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think that's very beautiful because there's a saying that said, "Out of your pain births your purpose." Right? Can you talk about or speak to how your experiences actually brought you to this point?
So I lost my mother in January 13th to be exact, and my world feels like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know that your parents, won't be here always.
That's right.
And it's crazy because we've always talked. I would say over the last maybe 4 years about the possibility and when that time comes and how to be prepared and those things. But nothing can really prepare you for that type of loss.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it's different for other people, but my mother and I, we were close. We were very close.
Sure.
I'm close with both of my parents. So when I came home from work and walked into the house to see my wife waiting on the couch, didn't know what she was going to say to me. And she gave me the news, and then literally my world turned upside down. And it just hasn't been the same.
Sure.
It hasn't been the same. And people have told me, referring to that song, that's how that song came about. Estee, you need to look into counseling. And of course my first response is it gonna bring my mother back?
That's right.
Nah, I don't need it. I don't want it, you know? But I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Will I need counseling? Well, this is why I'm here.
That's right.
This is why I'm on the couch.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of us struggle, especially people that look like you and I, right, about counseling. And there's so many stigmas and taboo thing about counseling, because I remember growing up, if you go to counseling, you're called crazy, right? Why you gotta see a therapist? Are you crazy, right? But I think you're speaking to something, and I think you're, I would say, like a figure that is showing that it doesn't matter what you go through, or what you have or what you have in front of you, but counseling could be a benefit if you use it the right way. But I wanted to talk to something that you said before. You smiled through it, right? And I think right now there's a lot of emotions going around, but speak to that emotion that you felt walking into, because you painted a picture, but you left the emotion out, right? Can you talk to that emotion about how you felt in that moment, walking into that house and seeing your wife on the couch and hearing that news?
It was surreal. I don't know if surreal is an emotion, but it was surreal because she said it.
Yeah.
But I was like,
yeah.
And I think I may have said it out of my mouth. Wait, what did you say?
Right.
Like, what did you just say?
That's right.
And I think my wife, talk about emotion.
Yeah.
She had a smile on her face, but she had tears. And that's how I knew something wasn't right. And I didn't know what she was going to say.
That's right.
And when she said it, it was like, this is happening. This is happening right now. You are in this moment. It actually happened.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down and just kind of keep asking myself, like, is this really happening? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And I think my wife was afraid that I was going to start tearing the furniture up. She was afraid I was going to start punching holes in the walls.
Sure thing.
But I didn't believe that. I didn't believe what she said. And it was like, I got to call my father.
That's right.
I had to get him on the phone. I need to speak to somebody there to make this real. And I think the emotion that I felt then was like overwhelmed. I was really overwhelmed because I didn't want it to be so.
That's right.
I didn't want it to be true.
That's right.
And so it was nothing I've ever felt before.
Right. Looking in your eyes right now, I can see that you're reliving those emotions, right? And I think it's something that you speak to in a song called Roller Coaster, the ebbs and flows of life. And that's how grief is, right?
Yeah.
But before even moving to that point and to that song, I think if I can help you out a little bit, right, to give you words to really talk to how you're feeling, right? There's Kubler-Ross 5 Stages of Grief that's initially came out. It actually came out it was made for medical professionals that worked in the medical field to work through the stages of grief with patients. However, it was turned into a tool that can be used in counseling. However, there was an additional 2 steps that was added and I wanted to speak to what you talked about. The initial first stage was shock, and that's what it sounded like you experienced initially, shock, and then the second one is denial, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like you were experiencing both emotions at the same time, with the hopes of, in order to grieve initially, right, or to get to the grieving process, you have to get to acceptance, which was one of your songs as well.
Wow.
Right? And I don't even think you knew that, but you're speaking of grief, right? Good grief, right? Good grief. And I think right now, I think a lot of us think that grief is a linear thing, that you go straight through the stages. But like you said, just to speak to roller coaster, the ebbs and flows of life, right? So can you talk about the ebbs and flows of emotions that you've felt over this, several months that your mom has passed away?
Yeah, you messing me up.
I'm sorry. Take your time.
All right, so at one point I had to say to my wife, are you okay? Because as much as I felt the weight, she's been there for a long time. I've been with my wife since we were 16. And she's been in my life. So she's been there. She had a relationship with my mother as well. And roller coaster came about because there's some days that I'm managing and I'm moving, and people think that, oh, ST's doing good. He's fine. Everything is good. Yeah. And people would say that, are you good? And I started to hate that question. I'm never going to be good. Right. Because my mom's not here.
Right.
And so, yeah. There's some days that I'm up, and there's some days that I'm down, and there's some days I just don't want to be around nobody. And there's some days I have to be around people because I have a family, I have a wife and children. That's right. I have to go to work, you know? And then there's my father, who I love tremendously, immensely, that even while I'm going through what I'm going through, at some point I got to reach out and say, are you good? You know, are you all right? Are you okay? Yeah. Because he lost as well.
That's right.
You know? And so roller coaster is that, you hear people say, yo, this life is a roller coaster. That's right. Well, grief is a whole other one. I think grief is that roller coaster that people are afraid to get on because it got a whole lot more turns, a whole lot more flips. It's faster, and then it slows down, and you don't know what it's going to do. You just see it go up, and you don't know what it's going to do after that.
That's right.
That's how life feels right now.
That's heavy. I felt every emotion that you just spoke to. And I think, and I want to say thank you for being vulnerable in this moment, right? Because I think a lot of us tend to mask our emotions. One of the songs that you have is, I think it's also "Let Me Lay on Your Couch." Is we tend to don't want to show that emotion that we're feeling, and I want to thank you for allowing yourself and giving yourself the opportunity to do that.
I gotta let it out.
Yes, right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So let's speak to that song, "Let It Out." That song blindsided me because there's a technique that I use with my clients, right? That says I tell them to give themselves permission, give themselves 10 minutes a day, right, to yell, scream, cuss. Right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy when you made that when that song came out, I was like, is he in my counseling sessions? Right? Because that's something that I tell people all the time is like, I use the analogy like at some point, like we're like lint rolls.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure you used a lint roller before, right? And if you tear off a fresh lint roll, if you start from the top of your shirt, by the time I get to the middle, it's gonna be a bunch of crap on it.
Yeah.
Right. But what we don't do in life is we don't change the lint roll.
Wow.
We continue to use the same lint roll to try to get stuff off, and then we get frustrated that it's not working. Right. So can you talk to me about giving yourself the permission to yell, scream, cuss, be human outside of you being Christian? You being human, right? To get through what you're going through.
A few people told me this as I was preparing for my mother's service, and we were putting information into the obituary and the program and things, and everybody didn't know what to say. But then there were some people that said this, and they was like, ST, I'm telling you right now, get it out your system. Whatever you got to do.
That's right.
If you got to scream, if you got to yell, whatever you got to do,
That's right.
you got to get it out because you can't keep it in.
That's right.
Nobody's telling me to sin.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they're not telling me to go crazy and
That's
off the
right.
deep end. That can happen, I believe, if I don't. If I don't,
Yeah.
I think my family would suffer.
That's right.
If I kept it bottled in. My wife and my relationship would
right.
suffer.
That's right.
There's so many things that would be affected by me keeping it in. So when this song came to me, and the way that it came to me, it's not even one with a lot of lead, you know, and a lot of me singing. It's me including people like let's make this an anthem for people to really say in the morning.
That's right.
Before you go to bed,
That's right.
before you get started, before you go do something that's major in your life, let that stuff out. Get that stuff off of you.
That's right.
As much as you can until you feel good.
That's right.
Because if you don't, you're taking all of that where you're going.
That's right.
And everybody that you come in contact with is going to be affected by that. So that's how Let It Out came. And yeah, I know the words is going to catch some people off guard that are used to me singing praise and worship and always being in church.
That's
and
right.
being in the forefront in that aspect. However, there's something that I tell the praise team, and we've always talked about, is never be fooled by the faces of the people.
That's right.
That you're ministering to, and think that they have it all together. Even if they're not getting with you and they're kind of numb in the face, there's a reason behind that.
Right.
Sister, there's a reason behind that. And we might not know the reason. Just
Right.
do your job.
That's right.
And then let God do his job.
That's right.
Right? It might require cussing.
That's right.
It might require yelling
That's
and
right.
screaming.
That's right.
It might require that for you to feel that relief
Yeah.
and that release.
Yeah.
So yeah, let it out.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful that you spoke to that. I think one of the biggest things, what I attribute that to, I call it the ripple effect, right? Or I always ask my clients, especially younger kids, when I work with them, what happens if you continue to blow air in a balloon?
Yeah.
Right? It eventually pops, right? And my goal as a therapist is to help you learn how to release some of that air without it popping. Because if it pops, right, it doesn't only affect you, but if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not aware of what you're feeling, the popping of the balloon will shock me. Right.
Yeah.
And then now it's called the ripple it's so like you mentioned, it's going to hurt, not only impact you, then in fact your sons, your dad, your family, people that's connected to you. So that's beautiful to hear that you're using music, right, and rhythm to really let out what you're experiencing. Right.
Really.
So let's talk about, by the way, the backdrop is beautiful, and a lot of it speaks to Kubler-Ross thing. Another one is anger, right? But I want to talk to you about your faith, right? Because I think that's how we connected initially.
Yeah.
One of the normal mechanisms of grief is for an individual to question their faith, right? And you're a man that's rooted in God.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
You're a man that's rooted in God, and the older that I got, and I used to connect with you, and I used to go back to IUP, come back, God set in my spirit, like, Estee's I think it's Paul, he called him, or Peter, a fisher of men, right? But talk to me about how it was to be a man that's so rooted and strong in his faith, and then something like this came, and using your words, shook your world to the core, right? How have you been able to maintain your spirituality and your faith with God?
My perception is different.
Okay.
My faith perception is different.
That's right.
So the song Accepted. The song Accepted is really inspired by the Job experience. Again, and I kind of described it in the introduction of the song, you're going through so much and you feel so heavy and you feel like, what in the world is going on in my life? Like, why is this happening, right? And then, of course, as men of faith, we go to God like, God, you got to help me. You gotta fix this. You got to do something about this. And then God responds and says, I permitted that. That's me.
Yeah.
God is like, that was me.
Yeah.
And in Job's experience, his wife said, curse God and die.
That's right.
Like he's like because of everything he took from you, that can't be God.
Right.
And God is like, yeah, Satan had to get my permission to do that.
That's right.
Right? When this happened to me, how it affected me in real life, the songs that I sing, I started being more analytical about the words. And what I witness. I don't want to be careful because it's not that I don't believe what I believe,
That's right.
but now I have another perception. So my perception now is this. God said that we're going to have victory.
That's right.
God said that the promise is going to come to pass.
That's
God
right.
told me that things were going to happen in my life.
Mm.
What he didn't tell me was that my mother won't be here to see it.
Mm.
And so in church, what we say is, it's not my time to die.
Sure.
Or I'm not dying right now. Or we say things like that when in fact, the Bible says to live is Christ, to die is gain.
That's right.
So dying should not be a bad thing.
That's right.
If you're living right.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Amen. Yeah.
My perception now is you're going to get everything that God told you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have it.
Yeah.
But everybody that you wanted to be there to see it
Yeah.
won't be there.
That's right.
Everybody and everything that you wanted to be there and witness it with you and celebrate that with you,
Yeah.
they're not going to be there.
That's right.
That doesn't say that he's not God. He's still God. It's still coming to pass. He just didn't tell you that part. And maybe we talk about this too. Some things, if God were revealed to us, we probably wouldn't even pursue.
That's right.
Because we don't want to do it without them. I don't want to do life without my mother.
That's right.
I don't want to do life without my father. I want to do life without anybody that I love.
Right.
But if you talk to Abraham, if you talk to Job, if you talk to those people in the Bible, you understand that it's going to come to fruition without some people that you love.
That's right.
So that's where my faith is now. My faith is now in a place of God has never failed me and he won't.
Yeah.
He is sovereign in all of his ways.
Yeah.
And anything that he does not diminish him from being God. It's just teaching me what life in God is, what it requires, and what it might be without.
Sure, absolutely, man. That was beautiful. I think what spoke to me is like it was very powerful to hear that I'm going to be achieving these things, and my mother's not going to be there to share it with me, right? And that stood out to me. And those are things that we tend not to think about as children, right? Because it's like sometimes we view our parents as superheroes, right? And it's like my superhero has left, right? So my question for you is, whether it's through your music or other ways of coping, how can you prepare yourselves moving forward now in moments of milestones that you may achieve, your wife may achieve, your siblings, or let's say your sons, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to prepare yourself for those moments to get through those difficult moments that you may experience?
I was preparing myself and I didn't know it. The best thing that we could have ever done, we celebrated my mother and father's 50th wedding anniversary.
That's major.
Last year.
That's great.
Didn't know that would be the last celebration. Right after that celebration, it was her birthday. She turned 70.
Wow.
And, we honored her for that as well, right? Yeah. The only way to prepare for the unexpected, you got to make huge memories.
Yeah.
You have to cherish everything, and everything you think to do, if you can physically do it, do it.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone.
That's right.
Get in the car and drive.
Right.
Catch a flight and go.
Yeah.
Try not to miss nothing.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know.
That's right.
If that's the last one.
That's right.
We had no clue.
Yeah.
And I think it was the best celebration that my mother ever experienced in her life.
Yeah.
We have pictures to prove it.
Yeah.
My father has pictures on his phone now to prove it.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think that we were preparing, not even realizing what was coming.
That's right.
And that was the lesson.
Yeah.
Do that going forward.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that gives me calm.
Yeah.
Is to know that everything that I could have done, I tried or I did it.
That's right. That's beautiful.
I did it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you doing that eliminates the guilt that a lot of people feel when it comes to the passing, or I call it the transition of a person that we love. So I think just to speak to that as well, one of the things that I heard in that moment is creating rituals and celebrating those individuals, your mom, right? So when I'm working with clients, like I told you, actually prior to coming to this, I was literally just I'm still grieving with the death of my 24-year-old cousin. She turned 25 a couple of days ago in a tragic car accident in New York, right? Wow. And it shocked me it rocked me to my world, because I'm like, man, so young, right? However, what I try to implement in my life, what I tell my clients is, create different rituals, right? So what I would encourage you to do is continue to live your life in gratitude, right? Celebrate those moments, right? Leave a table, a chair for her at the Thanksgiving table, right?
Wow.
Make her favorite dish,
Wow.
but doing things to honor her and keep her present, right? Because the beautiful thing about your mother, even though she may not be here in flesh, right? But she'll forever be here on this earth, because everything she's taught you, you're going to teach your sons. They're going to teach their children, and then their children. So
babe, we gotta have peach pie Thanksgiving.
That's right. So then essentially, she lives on. She continued to live on through your legacies.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the beautiful thing about this. But question for you is like, so you have a beautiful support system here with you. And
they mean the world to me.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's beautiful, right? And one of the biggest things to help people overcome trauma, which I really focus on, and grief, is having a strong support system. So you give them a shout out, but can you speak to how it feels to have people that you can depend on to help you when you're not at your best, right? And you're not Superman. Right.
Yeah.
And the weights get a little bit heavier than it used to. Right. How speak to how much they have helped you through this process.
I'm here because of them.
Amen.
I was able to do this music, and I'm still here because of my family. I'm still here because of my family. Wow. That Your Couch song?
Yeah.
The contemplations, the things that you contemplate.
Yeah.
Without a strong support system,
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, I know God loves me, and I know He has my best interest at heart, because if He would have took my mother while I was single, this would have played out differently. If He would have took my mother and my father was not with us, that's another story.
Yeah.
My life would be different.
Yeah.
I would not have been able to bear this this way.
Right.
So having my family, having my wife and my sons and my dad to kind of bounce off of, and my extended family, everybody's got my back. You know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing I don't tolerate no foolishness and no knuckleheads.
Right.
You know,
right.
around me, and they know, you know, they won't last in my presence, but for so long.
Right.
But I got real, genuine people in my life. Some that have experienced grief and loss before me.
That's right.
So they were already prepared, you know, to know what to say, what to do, how to respond to me.
That's right.
And then sometimes just to be quiet, but be there.
Yes.
You know? And so, having that is why I'm still here.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So so in this process, right? So it sounds like you went from accepting, to no pun intended to your song, which is beautiful, accepting that mom is no longer here, but then now you're processing through grief, right? One of the biggest things with grief is processing it in a healthy way so it doesn't become complicated grief.
Right.
Okay. And complicated grief looks like a person that does not grieve with what they're dealing with, but over time it creates a monster, right? If you think about Space Jam, it's like the Looney Tunes grab that their powers and they become the Monstars, right? So complicated grief is one of the things whenever a person is not fully grieving through their process or doesn't grieve correctly. So in your grieving process, what do you think is next for you moving forward in this journey?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't even conjure up an answer for that.
That's right.
All I do know is I want the world to experience good grief.
That's right.
I want them to experience this music. That will be helpful for me. And I don't want to, and I don't know if this is good or bad, and you can tell me. I don't want to figure everything out, because then that leaves no room for God.
Right.
So I will continue to do what He gave me. I know this has to go out.
That's right.
And I will continue to perpetuate that and put that out into the world.
Yeah.
And then God will have to exceed my thoughts. That's right. The rest of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. I think honestly to what you're saying is, and I'm happy that you actually pushed to that route, because there's so many things in life that we can't control, right? And I think you're right, because let go and let God and allow Him to be in the midst of that situation is going to be beautiful for you through this process. But I will encourage you to continue to make these beautiful music because the rhythm of the music and the movement of the music and making something out of nothing, right? Music therapy is so beautiful, and a lot of us don't experience it, but the people that create these arts always say they put their heart into the music, and now I see why, right? Because it's so, we call it cathartic, right? You're releasing of all these emotions that we tend to hold trapped in.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. ST, it's beautiful, man.
Hopeton, man, I just want to say thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm overwhelmed because you're kind of like David to me right now, because when I met you, you were a child. You were younger than me.
Yeah.
But now you sit as a king,
I appreciate
doing
that.
something that God has purposed you to do.
No, I appreciate that.
And man, you have helped me today.
Oh, man.
You have helped me today.
Yeah.
And you've actually confirmed some things, me not even knowing I was on the right path.
Yeah.
You've confirmed some stuff. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for this. And good grief.
Good grief. But thank you. I'm very humbled and honored, and the music is phenomenal. It's beautiful. I when you sent it to me, I couldn't stop listening to it. My wife was like, "What is that playing?" I was like, "Mind your business." But no, it's good grief. It's a beautiful thing, man.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is great.
Woo! All right, I gotta get off this couch.
Oh man. If you